There's no PhD behind my name, so I feel woefully underqualified right now. But I'm a writer and a mother, and now I live in Kansas City. I was going to confess that, just so we're clear. I was going to confess that I live in Kansas City now, but in my defense, I was born and raised here. So my talk is, who are the people in your neighborhood? When you think of neighborhood, do you think of a neighborhood like this? Sesame Street, where you have little shops and everybody knows everybody and you're all up in each other's business in a good way. But you know your friends, you know your family, you know who you're buying your groceries from, you know who is your dry cleaner. Today, with all the technology that we have, neighborhoods aren't quite the same. Maybe when you think of neighborhood or community, you think of this, the map of St. Louis. Maybe it's not just Maplewood, Richmond Heights, Bridgeton. Maybe it's the whole general area. Maybe you identify yourself as, my community is St. Louis. Maybe you think, I'm a Missourian. Maybe you think that that is your community. That is how you self-identify. But neighborhoods are changing. Communities are changing. This was taken from an episode on NPR yesterday where Robert Kolowich was talking about changes in communities, emerging communities. They took where'sgeorge.com information. If you've ever heard of that, every once in a while you find a dollar bill and it has a stamp on it that says where'sgeorge.com. You go in, you log in that dollar, you can see where it's been, then you go and you spend it. They keep track of that. They want to know where are people spending their money. Here's our general area. As you see in Kansas City, more of our money goes towards the Kansas side than anywhere beyond Columbia. St. Louis gets Illinois all the way to Columbia. Columbia has the money going to either Kansas City or St. Louis, so that's a different way that you're dividing the community. Unfortunately, where I live, it comes from Jayhawk Nation instead of Tiger Nation, and that's kind of rough for me. So this is the United States. Maybe this is your community. I'll be honest and say that I rewrote a whole lot of this after the Boston Marathon attack, after West Texas. We look at our community and maybe we do see Sesame Street, maybe we do see Big Bird walking around or your neighbor and you think that is where I live, that's my community. But then something like that happens as far as a bomb in Boston or a fertilizer plant explosion in West Texas or 9/11 or Columbine or Newtown, and all of a sudden our community here, this area, isn't as important. The whole community is important. One of our sort of unspoken secrets, one of our sort of unspoken truths about ourselves is we are each the center of our own universe. I'm not saying we're narcissists. I'm not saying that we only care about ourselves, but out of necessity, my life revolves around myself, my children, my husband, my mom, my family. How do we go from this life is all about me to this life is not only about St. Louis, Kansas City, your neighborhood, the United States, but everywhere? Another study that was done used, I don't know how they got it, but they said they got it fairly, proprietary phone information from AT&T networks, where people are making their phone calls. As you can see, a lot of Missouri is in the same area, but we don't seem to talk to Oklahoma very much. My dad lives in Oklahoma, so my mom thinks that's funny. But as you can see, Southern California is separated from Northern California. Do those two places interact? Absolutely. But people tend to stick in their general area. This is from the Where's George one, and you can see the West Coast has a very defined area. Once you spend your money in that area, it tends to stay in that area. This is, I love this graphic, this is the long distance phone calls from around the country. Up in the red is the Manhattan, New York City area. Down here is Florida. You can see there's a lot of people calling Florida and New York. But it shows that we're all connected. Not just because we live next door to each other, but because we're in this great big wide world. When I talk about how we're all sort of self-involved as far as our own universes, that's why when somebody from middle school shows up on your Twitter feed and you're like, holy crap, how do I know that guy? Or how is he on here? And then he tweets somebody else that you know from soccer or college or a former job, and you're like, wait a minute, how do you know that person? Because my world is revolved around me. And whenever we find out that somebody we know from one of our little communities, in one of our other little communities, we freak out. We think, wow, what a small world we live in, that so-and-so from church knows so-and-so from soccer. But do we really feel like it's a small world? Do we really feel like this world belongs to us all? That my neighborhood does not define me? These various charts that had from the phone calls and the Where's George, they show that we are not our borders. That the state of Missouri does not mean I stop at the state of Missouri. We travel around. We have different groups. We have online communities. That means you can be friends with people on the other side of the world, never having met them, and yet that is a part of your community. So how do we make our communities better? How do we start being better people? By stepping in front of the camera. What do we do? After Newtown, Ann Curry started talking about 26 acts of kindness. She wanted people to do 26 totally random, whatever kind of acts of kindness in honor of the victims of the Newtown shooting. I love that idea. I love the idea of buying a coffee for the guy in line behind me. Don't know him, he doesn't know me, he won't even know who I am, I drive off before it happens. Love it. I love the idea of leaving a quarter in the cart at Aldi so the next person doesn't have to fumble, they get their cart for free! I love seeing somebody help somebody put their groceries in their car. I love coming out in the wintertime and seeing that the neighbor 3 houses down just snowplowed the neighbor's 3 houses down. What we need to do is stop thinking of them as random acts of kindness and start thinking of them as intentional acts of kindness. What is your intention behind it? Can you wake up every day when you're making your to-do list? I need to go by the bank, I need to pick up groceries at Aldi, hopefully there's a quarter in that cart, I need to do this. Can you also add in intentional acts of kindness? They don't have to be costly. They can be free. They don't have to take a lot of time. They don't have to take a lot of thought. But can you put that in your daily to-do list? Can you help somebody shovel their driveway? Can you help someone in any way? Maybe it's the elderly neighbor that really just needs somebody to say hi. Maybe it's taking your mail over when you get the wrong address at your house. That happens all the time in my neighborhood, and I always shove it back in the mailbox. Why not walk over, knock on the door, say, hey, I got your mail. My name is Sarah. Let's be friends. We have a tendency to think, because our own universes revolve around ourselves, that our problems are very insurmountable. I can totally acknowledge the fact that my problems are not as big as most other people's. My family is happy and healthy. We have food, we have shelter. I get to take the train, visit my mom, and give a TED Talk. My life's pretty good. But going back to the fact that my universe revolves around me, even if your problems are larger, my problems are still my own, and I still have to deal with them. Can we be more compassionate towards others with our intentions? I may not have it all, but I have a heart and I can share that. I may not have $100 to give to somebody, but I can have a kind word. I may not be able to solve your problem, but I can absolutely sit and listen to you talk about them and reserve judgment. It's not my job. My job is not to tell you, don't worry about it, you're freaking out about nothing, it's really no big deal. Yes, it is. It's your big deal. So when we talk about our own selves and our own ideas of what we can do, can you make a list? Can you think about all the different communities that you're involved in and think about what do I do to better that? Do I contribute? Am I neutral? Or do I subtract from the total? And it doesn't have to be hard. It doesn't have to be difficult. You just have to do it. I have a friend named Sarah Darling, and when you talk about one person being able to do something nice and being a good person, this story is fantastic. And you might have heard it. She is a friend of mine in Kansas City. She was walking down on the plaza. There was a homeless gentleman that's always been there, always has been. She stopped, she dumped her change purse into his cup, walked on. 24 hours later realizes she had put her engagement ring in her wallet and dumped it into the man's cup. She goes back, she finds the gentleman, and she says, "Do you remember me?" And he said, "Darling, I see a lot of people." And she said, "I might have left something really important in your cup." He said, "Is it a ring?" She said, "Yes." He said, "I still have it." He got it. He had taken it the day that she dropped it in his cup. He had taken it to a jeweler to see, is this real or was it a joke? What is it? The jeweler offered him $4,000 on the spot. To a dirty, homeless man, he offered him $4,000. The man said, "Oh, no thank you. I'm going to hold on to it." He waited for her to find him, gave her back her ring. She decided she wanted to do something nice in return. She started a give forward account. They were hoping to raise about $1,000. They had found his sister who lives down in Texas. They were hoping to get $1,000. As of last night, they are at about $190,000, have been raised, and most of the denominations are $5. It is people hearing somebody doing something good, and the best part of the story is she stopped to help him. She didn't ignore him. She said hello, she gave him her money, she went on the rest of her night, and then he paid her back by holding on to her ring, knowing that that had to be valuable. Even after finding out that he could have had $4,000 cash on the spot, he saved it for her. And then she and her husband decided they wanted to pay that back. So now the man's going to walk away with about $190,000. And before we freak out, he has a financial advisor. They've gotten him a phone. They actually were on the Today Show. He got to reunite with his family. It's an amazing, beautiful story. He was a vet. They've gotten to know him. These are little things. If she hadn't dropped her ring, if she hadn't stopped to help a man in need, they wouldn't have known him. He wouldn't have known them, and none of this would have happened. So it's not big steps. It's little steps. We don't have to change the entire world. We need to change our own world. The world that our universe that we revolve around, we need to change that. And if we help one person, that's fine. We can't get overwhelmed with the fact that these problems are so insurmountable, that there are so many hungry people in the world, that there are so many incarcerated people in the world, that there are so many drugs in the world. You can't get bogged down by that. If you can help one person, you've changed their entire world. So I ask you, tomorrow morning when you're making your to-do list, can you add maybe just one or two things, one or two, maybe three intentional acts of kindness that you can do for your community? Not just your universe and not just your neighborhood, but this whole big global community that we are now, good or bad, all a part of. If you're waiting for a sign, this is it.